Yes.
It's okay. It's easy. Anastasia, let me start off by saying thank you so much for accepting the invite. I feel very grateful that you came in on the show and you gave us your time.
Thank you for having me. Yes.
You are most welcome. Anastasia, let's just start slowly. I just need you please to introduce yourself. Who's Anastasia? What's your background? What's your experience? And basically, what do you do?
Okay. So I was born in Russia, and if we're talking about professional life, I was inspired to go into field of psychology by my family circumstances. Because before I was born, my grandmother, she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I was growing up in settings evolved around her well-being. Okay. And so when one person has mental disorder, it's the whole family system involved. And watching her for over 20 years, the dynamic of her condition, it made me, which actually never became significantly better. Yeah. It made me think how I can support people who are suffering and their families, what I can be maybe do differently, because I saw that there is no progression. I thought, what is missing in the system? Why is it failing? Because I saw not only her, I saw other people in the hospital, because I was going to the hospital every week where she was admitted. Yeah, so I was inspired by that, and I finished my bachelor and master degree in psychology. I was working in the hospital for people with mental disorders. So it means people who has very severe condition. In UE, I was working in different facilities, governmental and private facilities. But for the last 2 years, I have a private practice.
Wonderful. So let's say what inspired you to start the journey in psychology was your grandmother. And because you saw, let's say, there's like a lack in the system to treat such, let's say, illnesses or conditions in a sense. Before we go a little bit more into details, can you just like tell us what is schizophrenia? Like what usually happens to the person who is diagnosed with schizophrenia? Can you please identify it?
With any mental disorder, it's really range, it's a spectrum. And the picture of either autism, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, split personality disorder, it can vary from one person to another really significantly. So there's no one picture how I can describe it, but how it was, how it manifested in my grandmother. It was hallucinations. It was dissociation with herself. For example, if she will start to write, she can write on behalf of different people and think that she's different people, even different gender. Not aware about danger which she is exposing to others. Like, for example, she will burn some things, cut some things, and essentially she passed away because of her unawareness of surroundings. She went in the winter, because I'm living in Siberia, so in the winter it's minus 40, minus 50.
Just only minus 40. It's as if nothing.
She went in the village. She wanted to walk to another village, which is a few kilometers, and she's frozen on the way. So we found her after 6 months when snow melted. So though she was living in the same village for her whole life, at this moment, because of her condition, she was not aware that she cannot make it, Yes, so that's how it's manifested in her.
Now, You mentioned also that what made you come into, let's say, the field of psychology was the lack of institutes to be able to handle such cases. Why do you think is that? Like, why do you think we are lacking in the field of psychology back then? And one more thing, are we better now in this time? What do you think?
Okay. I would say what was lacking before 20 years ago and lacking today, it's approximately the same. I don't see much dynamic happening. There's much more awareness, but system is quite rigid because it's system which involved big institutions. Yeah. And the main aspects which I see failing people who need support. First, it's reduction perspective on mental health. Reduction meaning when it's perceived through biological lenses and believe that those conditions is only because of chemical disbalance. Yeah. And if it would be so, then any medication would work.
True.
But despite of so-called development of psychopharmacology, the amount of cases and untreated mental disorders, for example, in US, it's 60% of adults there on the medications, and still there is no increased level of well-being or rate of happiness and so on. So first failure, it's reducing our psyche, our soul, our pain to biological perspective. Secondly, any person, it's not functioning within itself. It's functioning within the system.
True.
Yeah. But when we're trying to treat person out of system, and what I mean, for example, if there is prejudices towards certain nationalities or certain gender, then it doesn't matter what kind of medication we will give. It will not overpower the difficulties which person experience in everyday life. You know? So this is social level. Because a lot of mental conditions, they are caused by social injustice.
True.
Poverty. Yeah. There is, in US, one psychologist, he told, tell me your PO box code, and they will tell you what mental conditions and lifespan you will have. Meaning that PO box will tell either you poor or rich, what nationality is living there, and so on. That's how strong social impact on mental well-being and physiological well-being.
So the environment, how much of a role does it play? Now, you mentioned also that usually they treat it chemically, like they treat the conditions chemically. So from your perspective, if the chemical, let's say, treatment is not working, it's not the solution. And also the environmental aspect is part of this equation.
Right.
So how can we treat an individual who is in part of a society and is living there, and the society is influencing them on a daily basis? So how can we be able to tackle the individual who is surrounded by a society? Do you think like maybe we should take him out of the society, or can we treat him within the society?
Okay. So there's, I would say there's hierarchy of treatment, and there's 3 blocks. First, it's observable, straightforward tools. I will explain. Yeah.
Sure.
Then internal work, and then social or systematic approach. Okay. So one of the failure again, it's that our system jumping straight to medications without trying different approaches. And from where it's coming, because first it's profitable. Secondly, it's very easy You know, we want easy solution. We want magic pill.
True.
We want immediately. I'm suffering. I want to be happy in 5 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's where pills fitting into the system. Yeah. It's convenient for both parties. One party get profit, and another party got a magic pill. Okay. But hierarchy of treatment, medication, it's the strongest one. Okay, it's really which interfering with chemistry of the body. But same or even better effect can be achieved first through environment. But environment, I'm talking about environment of individual, not on social level. Environment, for example, if I'm in toxic relationship.
Yes, let's talk about that.
It doesn't matter how many pills I will take.
Yes.
Relationship still toxic.
It's still there, yeah.
Yes. So, or if my boss is abusive and I hate my work.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many pills I will take. The situation is not resolved.
Still the same.
Right. So sometimes it's important to have a look at your surrounding and really honestly assess it. Is my surrounding supporting my well-being, or is it just damaging it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes just working on relationship or changing your workplace, or look at your friends, because maybe it's influence of friends.
Yeah.
So this first level, surrounding of individual. Second is behavioral tools. Behavioral tools meaning how you sleep, how you eat, how you exercise, if you exercise, your sun exposure, and so on. Because if person is not sleeping, like this is absolute
basic minimum.
Basic minimum, right? So if I'm not sleeping and if I'm eating junk and not exercising, then for sure person can very, very easily to fall into depression and to anxiety and so on, and feel irritable. Yeah. And instead of jumping to the medication, we first have to work on pillars. This is our pillars: sleeping, eating, exercising, sun exposure. Yeah. But what people do, they want to continue sleeping from 3 a.m. till 11 a.m., eat junk, not exercise, but feel good. So that's where pills again coming into place.
Because they come and cover the root cause of the problem.
Right.
They treat the symptom.
Yes, exactly. So first environment, then behavior, then we can talk about supplements. Yeah. So supplements, it's we're starting to step into chemistry through chemistry, but it's still very gentle approach. Yeah, it's easy to start, it's easy to finish it. There is no significant violent shift in the chemistry of the body. And only when those three are addressed, so you tried all of them, you really worked on them, and you still feel the same how you felt, then we can talk about medication. But people don't want to do this work.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where I think system fails, and people not realizing how powerful they are by just changing their surrounding and their daily habits, and how significantly it can impact their well-being. For example, when I did my dissertation for master degree, my research was about how physical exercises affect emotional, cognitive, and behavioral development of people with autism. But by doing this research, I also came across about a lot of data which support the fact that physical exercises have equal or stronger effect than antidepressants.
Wonderful.
This is mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
So any psychiatrist, any psychologist, any psychotherapist, first thing should be prescribed is physical exercises. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because there's no any part of the body, organ of the body, or chemistry which will not be affected positively by exercises. Okay? If we're talking about normal exercises, there's no any single bad side effect.
Yes.
None. Yes. So this is one part of treatment. Next, it comes internal work, which is not so straightforward and observable as a first block which I described, but which is much more essential, I would say, because our beliefs, our history, how we interpreting world, what are we telling to ourselves, what we believe about ourselves, essentially will determine how we viewing the world.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, none of the pill will change our prejudices, our self-talk, our concepts. Yeah. But that what relies in our ground, right? So this internal work is another block. And the third, on social level, when we're talking about racial prejudices, injustice, poverty, and so on. And you ask what we can do about it, right?
Yes.
What I believe is important is for every person to find their tribes where they belong to. Yeah, because before people started so easily move from place to place, country to country, they all lived in their tribes.
True.
Where all have similar values, similar traditions, cultures, which keep them rooted. Yeah, where they feel accepted for who they are, for their beliefs and what they're practicing daily. But if, for example, person with one set of beliefs and tradition comes to totally different settings,
it's going to be tough.
Absolutely. Person will feel alienated. Everything about him or herself, it's like something wrong with me because this group does totally different things.
I see.
Yeah. So it's very important to find the tribes where you belong to. And when I'm saying tribes, it could be even 2 people.
Yeah.
It could be 5 people, but where you accepted for who you are, where you understood for who you are.
Why is it important on us as a human level or a personal level to belong, in a sense? Like, why do you always need this sense of belonging to a group? Because what you said is very true. People always try to fit in a tribe. And I think this is why also the idea of religion fits. Because people also like to belong to a group of people or set of beliefs, and they need to be able to relate to others. From your perspective, why is it needed for us, like as humans, to always follow a certain pattern or certain group of people?
Yes. So first, what you mentioned, people trying to fit into.
Yes.
So this trying to fit into may either make you or break you. If you're a fish and you're trying to fit into a group of cats or jungle, you will never fit. You always feel less like. You always will feel like something wrong with me.
I see.
Yeah. And that's what happens with a lot of people. They see something what may look attractive or what is promoted on social media as attractive.
Yes.
And if it doesn't resonate to me, but I see that it's promoted, this tribe, these sets of beliefs, I will push myself by the cost of my well-being to fit there.
I will force myself.
I will force myself to be someone I am not. I will force myself to be a cat, though I'm a fish, and pretend. And that's where the disconnection with your true self happens. And there was never will be health, fulfillment, happiness, and sense of achievement because you never will be true to yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, we have to find our tribe first and foremost.
First, we have to know who we are to find our tribe.
How can we know who we are? Like, how do we determine who we are? Because from my experience, as let's say on a personal level, via the time, I noticed that I might have changed my beliefs. I noticed that I might have changed my perspective on certain things.
Right.
So maybe who I am 10 years back is different than who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I fit in a group maybe 10 years back, maybe I don't fit in it now. Did you get what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so how can we determine who we truly are?
The dynamic which you explained, it's absolutely healthy dynamic. It would be strange to wear the same clothes which you was wearing when you was in the kindergarten.
I see.
Okay. So if you're growing, yeah, if you're developing, if you're healing, it would be very, very logical to change your surrounding. If your surrounding not growing with yourself, for example, if your set of friends, they opting, let's say, chill and Netflix every weekend, and that's it. That's the life. Yeah. And you opted to go hiking, exercising, reading books, reflecting, following your passion. Yes, you will not fit there where maybe you fit when you were a student and that was all what you wanted to be.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So that's normal if you're changing your tribes throughout the life. And how to know who we are. It's a process which requires a lot of bravery and curiosity. Absolute majority of people whom I'm meeting through my work and personal life, they afraid to be alone. They're afraid when there's silence, when there's no music, no TV, when there's no events scheduled on weekend. And why is it so? People so afraid to be with themselves. Yeah, we always want some entertainment and distraction from ourselves. And when you're in a constant move, yeah, with anything, despite how attractive it may look like, there is no room to connect to yourself or to know yourself. And if you're always with other people, if you're always on the TV, on social media, there is no room to listen this gentle voice within yourself to understand who you are. So solitude is essential to understand who you are. Solitude, quietness, reflection. Being able to ask questions which maybe you never was asking before. Asking very brave and raw questions. Yeah, deep questions. Because when we're not doing this work of self-inquiry, from where we will get this understanding who I am, we will look for it from outside world. We will look for validation from other people. Why we're so hooked for likes and appraisals and good words from others. When I don't know who I am, when I don't know my worth, and I'm disconnected to myself, I will look for those validations from outside, and people tell me who I am. Yeah.
And it might not be who truly I am, and that's why maybe it increased the levels of anxiety.
It will never be true. Because for society, it's profitable to put lower price tag on us. For example, if you want to buy a Bentley, yeah, but you don't know the cost of Bentley. Yeah. So me, as I'm selling it, I can put it much, much, much more expensive. Okay.
I see.
But you don't know the real price. Or there will be cheap car in front of you, but they will put price of Bentley. Again, if you don't know the cost of it, you will go and you will pay for it. And that's what happened with us. Like when you don't know who you are, it's guaranteed that you will be misled by surrounding, because if you don't know who you are, how other people can know who you are?
True. I see your point.
People just will tell you what is convenient for them to tell you.
to serve them, maybe in a sense to satisfy their inner self.
Not necessarily to satisfy inner self, but what is convenient for their agenda. What I mean, for example, you coming to a new workplace. You are talented, capable, proactive, ambitious, but at the same time, you don't believe to yourself, or you don't know how talented you are. Okay? And there's a lot of, for example, young people, they don't know how talented they are. And at your workplace, people know that you're talented. Your manager knows that you're talented.
Yeah.
But it's not really convenient for them to pay for your talent. So they will put the price tag, which is convenient for them, but will take, let's say they will pay 10,000, but they will get what the
20,
work
for example,
which will get or 400 even, you know?
Yes.
So that's what happens when I'm saying it's convenient for people, yeah? Or in relationship, if one person is really, let's say, well-developed and deep and devoted and great character, but doesn't aware about it.
Yeah.
So another person can easily manipulate and tell this wrong with you, you are not good enough. And there's the whole room for toxicity and manipulation. And the person who is a good person, they will follow it. They will believe because they don't know who they are.
Whoa. Well, that like actually is part of many things which I usually see around, like work-wise, like you just explained, like a huge spectrum of the life that we're living in. Like you also mentioned the fact that social media usually gives us this, let's say, perspective of the belonging which we should fit into, in a sense. Do you think that it's part of what's increasing the rates of depression and anxiety in current society? Because we don't truly feel or we don't truly know where we belong. And because of social media and the illusion that it creates, we keep on seeking different, let's say, ideologies or different space to fit in. And deep down, we don't truly fit into. Do you think that this is one of the reasons why the rates of depression and anxiety now is skyrocketing compared to the 10 or 20 or 30 years before?
For social media, it's very profitable for all corporates. It's very profitable for us to feel not enough, to feel less than, to feel unworthy. It's extremely profitable. If you have straight hairs, that's not good. You have to have curly hairs. And you have curly hairs, you have to straighten your hairs.
Yes.
If you're too curvy, that's too curvy. You have to lose weight. If you're too flat, you have to make a surgery. If you don't have kids, what's wrong with you? If you have 5 kids, what's wrong with you? If you're not married, why you're not married? If you're married, when you will have kids?
Yes.
You know, like it's for, if you open social media for any niche of people, they will find that they're not enough.
Yes.
Anything, it doesn't matter. You're black, you're white, you're tall, you're short, you're curly, you're straight, you're married, not married. There's always something wrong with you. And that's how corporates generating profits on our insecurities, because we're never good enough. And absolutely, that's also causing a rise of mental health issues, because there is none any corporate, none any big company will tell you, rather, you're good as you are.
Yes.
You don't need new iPhone. You don't need new clothes. You don't need to upgrade your car.
Yeah.
Drive bicycle, and that's enough for you.
Yeah.
You're perfect with your old Microsoft, and no one tell you that. Everybody tells You need another washing machine, you need new iPhone, you need to upgrade your car, you need bigger house, if you have your big house, you need to upgrade your furniture and so on. Yeah. So that's absolutely impose the feeling that I'm not enough as a human. My value reduced to my capacity to purchase as much as possible. And even if I'm purchasing a lot, it's still never enough, because there's always something coming up. There's always a change in trends. And changing in trends, it's exactly... So I bought something to fit into trend. This is my tribe.
Yeah.
But then trend change. I'm losing my tribe. I have to buy another shoes, another model to fit into tribe which I felt that I belong to.
Yes.
Yeah. So absolutely, social media impacts a lot by constantly making us feel that I need something from outside to be a good human.
Wow. How can we fight this? How can we, for example, educate people about this? If wherever we look, everywhere we look, everyone keeps talking about how are we not enough on social media, even like sometimes the surroundings, because they are also influenced by social media and by, it's like a ripple effect.
Right.
So how can we like try to detach or detach and go back to the way humans should to live? Do you think it's too late, or is there a way from, for example, from your clinical work or the patients which you see? How can you guide them outside of this? Like, what can you do?
Okay. I think it's very empowering to take responsibility for your life. Again, if we go back to medication, responsibility taking away from person.
Yeah.
I'm not in charge of myself. This is the chemicals what does to me. Yeah. Or if we're talking about childhood trauma, that's what happened to me, so that's why I am behaving like that. Yeah. But there is time in the life of any person, even on the deathbed, like you ask if it's too late. Even on the deathbed is not too late. There's always a moment when we can take responsibility and tell ourselves that I'm in charge of my life, and my past, my surrounding doesn't define me, and I can make different choices. And the ownership of your life, that's really, really empowering. And how we do this, like you ask how we can help people to do this. First is to become more aware about daily choices. Really start to understand why I'm going to this store, for example, or why am I buying to this food, or why I'm doing this activity on weekend.
Yeah.
Is it truly me? Is it really what gives me fulfillment, or I'm just trying to fit into something, or I'm trying to avoid something? Just start to questioning your own choices, and questioning not with a sense of to impose guilt or shame or judgment, but rather curiosity.
Yeah.
What is really reason behind my choices? Yeah. Just to be curious, to know yourself. And again, this dynamic of being hooked, what is promoted on social media, it comes from not knowing who you truly are. And I believe that the path to heal is to reconnect to yourself. Yeah, to understand what is my vision, what is my mission, what is my true values, not values which was imposed by what I'm consuming. Yeah, not imposed by movies I'm watching or advertisement I exposed to social media. But when I'm sitting by myself at my home alone, what is really valuable for me?
Yeah.
What makes me feel fulfilled and that I'm living? So when we will know those answers, then it makes very, very easy to decide what I have to do and what I don't have to do. But when we don't know those answers, it's very easy to be led by anything. It's like, if you don't know what is your destination, none of the road will be satisfying. So I think self-inquiry, journaling, solitude, it's the way to start to
discover yourself in a sense.
Right. And like not really fight social media, but have boundaries, till where you allow to influence your life.
I see.
So it's not about cutting it straight to zero, because it's hardly possible, but to realize what you're consuming, why you're consuming what you're consuming, what effects it has on you. Does it helps you to evolve? Does it heals you? Or is it keeping you where you are or dragging you back down? Does it help you to achieve your mission? Or you just stuck in convenience and in low self-esteem? So this is about being conscious about daily life.
Very beautiful. Thank you, Anastasia. That like actually that's wonderful. Like if people can just like apply that in a sense where they can understand. For example, if they want to keep social media in their life, all right, keep it, but understand how does it affect you? How does it reflect on who you truly are? And whether you wanted to keep imposing or like drawing boundaries, as you mentioned, it's very essential to separate like reality from illusion in a sense. A question crossed my mind. Why is it that childhood memories are so profound on us as adults as we grow? In other words, why, for example, if a childhood trauma have happened, it relates to us heavily as we grow up? Like sometimes it feels so hard, or we feel, let's say, a profound emotion if we remembered or we encountered the same thing which traumatized us as children, as adults now. Why is that?
Why childhood trauma is so impactful?
Yes.
Okay. It is believed by many psychologists, psychiatrists, psychotherapists that childhood traumas, they determines in the biggest degree how we're living our life.
Yes.
And why is it so profound? First, it happens, absolute majority of childhood traumas, they happened before we have language and capacity to reflect, to understand what happened, to verbalize, and to stand up for ourselves or fight for it or respond. All traumas happen with children when we're not capable to respond.
I see.
So what happens? We just absorbing it. Child cannot exit, for example, abusive house. Child cannot answer to parents if they're abusive, for example. So that's why the childhood trauma, it's like cocoon where child is wrapped into without any capacity to respond. And then it's also because of plasticity of the brain. It's any trauma which happens, it's like wired into the brain. It has literally effect on neurological development. Okay. And that's why, especially if we're talking about trauma which happens every day or is surrounding in which child is growing, like household. So we're not talking about one event which happened. We're talking about daily influence, because those daily influences could be much, much more profound than one separate event, because it's continuous over time effect. Yeah. So there's two types of traumas. Trauma, what happened to you, but it's also what not happened to you. For example, emotional connection. It's something what not happened.
True.
But it's also trauma. Yeah.
Oh.
And because child grows for years without emotional attachment, yeah, it's also affect neurological development of the child. So then essentially what was emotional at the first place becoming neurological. And then certainly if you have this neurology, that's what you get as you get an adult. Yeah. Does it answer your question?
It answers it perfectly. Like, because as you mentioned, like, I love the point that childhood traumas are not something which might have happened, but maybe they could be also something which we have lacked or didn't happen.
Yes.
As in a sense of lack of emotions as they grow up, because maybe lack of attachment or love or in the household. Do you think that this is why, as people grow, the lack of emotions is one of the things where psychopaths develop their characters, or sociopaths? Like, first of all, what's the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath? Is there a difference between these two?
Okay. Without going too much into medical terms, yeah. First, all diagnoses which we have at the moment, yeah, they're just descriptive. They're describing symptoms, but they're not helping us to understand anything about person.
Okay.
There is no help in getting what the roots, what really happens with the person. It's just description of what we're observing.
A label.
Yes.
I see.
And at the moment, there is no any biomarker. There is no any single gene which is discovered to say that this biomarker or these genes, they're related to this mental condition. So any diagnostic procedure, it's very subjective procedure. If one person can go to 10 psychiatrists for diagnosis, they can get 5 different diagnoses. Okay? Because it's subjective evaluation.
I see.
Okay? Even if there are standard questionnaires, yeah, if, for example, a person have maniac depressive symptoms, in maniac episode they can answer in one way, in depressive symptoms they can answer in different way. If person have hallucinations, they cannot assess themselves what's happening. So those questions, again, they have no they not accurately will reflect what's happening. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I have private practice and not associated to any facility, because this realm of reducing personal experience, personal traumas to one code or one diagnosis, it's not helpful. I believe it's more damaging to person. Yeah, when your whole life experience will put into one diagnosis.
I see.
And again, what we started our talk today, it's reductionism. Yeah, when we, instead of treating the whole personality, yeah, we're going back about diagnoses that diagnoses, they're just descriptive. They're not explaining anything, and hence it's give really little practical application how I see it. Yeah, my perspective in my work, what I use is rather to think about what is the healing path, where the break happened. where the wholeness was lost and how we can reestablish the wholeness, where the fragmentation of personality happened, where disconnection with myself happened. Because if we think about, for example, addictions, either behavioral or substance addiction, or any eating disorders, essentially the purpose of those behaviors is good purpose. It's purpose to ground themselves, to find peace, to relax. But the means through which it happens, that's where the issue coming into place. And all those avoidance behaviors, it's just telling us that it's so painful to be myself that I want at least for an hour to disconnect with myself, to not to be who I am. Yeah. So, and absolute majority of mental conditions, that's how I see it, that people disconnected with themselves and they don't want to be who they are. Yeah. What is depression? It's suppressed emotions. Yeah. It's traumas which are not faced, not lived, not worked out, not growing out of.
I see.
Yeah. So any condition, it's essentially to face it, address it, outgrow it.
So for us, let's say, to treat depression, it's very essential to acknowledge the problem,
Yes.
deal with it, and grow, become, let's say, a new version after it. Let's say to surpass that stage. Because if we kept on living with it and keeping, let's say, the denial, it's as if we didn't solve anything. It's going to always be embedded.
Right.
Am I correct in that?
Yes. And what is happening with people who, again, why recognition is not happening? Because people could be so disconnected with themselves that they are not recognizing that they're anxious or depressed. So this is first aspect. Second is that recognizing that I have some conditions, it requires some certain level of bravery. Yeah. And not all of us ready for it, because once you recognize it, it means something have to be done with it. Yeah. And again, when it's recognized, a lot of people will look for easy solutions as a medication, because if it's therapy, I have to look into my darkness, into my pain, into my maybe grief, anger, which is very, very uncomfortable. Any growth is an uncomfortable process.
Okay.
Any growth comes with a pain. So when we're talking about growth development, we're talking about pain, discomfort.
Okay.
Let's think about birth of child, or birth of any mammal or even butterflies. Yeah. When there's some point when we inside in the womb and the cocoon, yeah, it's a safe and comfortable zone.
True.
Very comfortable. But there's coming time when you have to become uncomfortable there.
Yeah.
When what was protecting you before starting to limiting your growth.
I see.
And if you will not push out, and if you will not go into zone where you're uncomfortable and strange and it's alienated, you will die inside. So you have to push and be very, very uncomfortable to go out and start to grow. Otherwise you die. But a lot of people choosing this option to stay in the comfort zone where they was for the last 5, 10, 20 years, because it's comfortable and known. And many people will choose comfort over happiness. Comfort over fulfillment. And when I'm saying comfort, I don't mean happiness. Comfort, it means I know what's going to happen. I know my patterns and I don't want to change it.
Wonderful. Like developing or growth has to come via pain or has to go via suffering. And this is why many people usually stay in their comfort zone.
Yes.
The predictability zone, let's say.
Right.
Where they know what the outcome, in a sense. And they don't usually try to grow out of it because they don't know what's on the other side.
Absolutely.
They cannot control it.
Yes, yes. And there's a lot of researches we're showing that, for example, even on HR field, people will choose to get smaller guaranteed salary than opportunity to have bigger, much bigger salaries, but it's not guaranteed. And people will choose something safe and guaranteed. And when we're talking about therapy realm, there's a lot of withdrawals from therapy because people starting to be shaking out of their comfort because you cannot be someone different from whom you are now without starting to do different, to feel different, maybe to have different surrounding. And there could be also resistance from surrounding when person starting to change. So there's also this dynamic of navigating how to deal with your close surrounding. Because once you start to grow, if your surrounding is not wise enough to grow with you, there will be clash.
And we see that in families and relationships usually.
Right. If, for example, one person will start to go for therapy or even not necessary therapy, just do internal work. That's why like even couples who would live maybe 20, 30 years together, then the dynamic will be so different that even after 30 years, they will feel we're different people. Because one start to grow and another never like stuck where they
were back then.
Yes.
So, you know what? Like, this also explains why, for example, relationships fail or some people have problems with their family because maybe they had a vision, maybe they wanted to grow, maybe they wanted to develop in a sense. However, because of the opposing force of their external surroundings, them not being able to occupy or go on the same level of understanding, that's where the separation started happening.
Right. And I believe for our well-being, fulfillment, happiness, it's important to be authentic and brave to follow your path. Because family, okay, we value family, but the simple fact of being born somewhere with someone doesn't mean you always will go in the same way. And people very, very often, they will compromise their essence to fit into social norms of being with family rather than follow their authentic drive. So being, I would say, being happy, mentally well, it requires a lot of strength and boldness because we often have to make choices which not aligned with expectations of others. Others expecting us to do what they want us to do. But my visions can be very, very different. And I have to choose. Do I please those people? Or I'm authentic to myself?
Why do you think some people, for example, grow out of the family? In a sense, let me re-elaborate. Since we, for example, we are born, we are surrounded by family, friends, so we have similar environment. In a sense, they are programming us, for example, to certain norms, cultural behavior, characteristics, etc. Why do you think that an individual grows sometime out of these norms? Although they were programmed for the same family norms. Like, where were they influenced with? Was it genetically? Or isn't the environment control them in a sense?
First, there's even children born in the same family. It may looks like they have similar surrounding.
Yes.
But they don't have similar surrounding. Even if they're different 1 year, the family dynamic, the mental state of mother and mental state of father is very different between first and second child.
I see.
So they never have the same surrounding. Even when they're in womb, they already have different. First and second child, the chemistry, the well-being of mother and father is very different.
I see.
So this is first. Secondly, how we're treating first child and second child, it's never the same.
Okay.
So yes, we all can expose to the same surrounding, but how those, so we exposed, let's say, to the same mother, but how mother treating those two children is different. How grandparents treating it's different.
I see.
Secondly, it's what children consuming. Yeah, even in the same family, one child can be on books, another child can be on a screen. Yeah. Then what kind of books or what kind of screen? Yeah. So any information. Okay, there is expression that how we perceive the world is how we're living. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you heard this expression.
Yes,
like it's very common saying, like your mind determines the world how you perceive it.
True.
Yeah?
True.
However, before our mind will start to perceive the world or influence the world will shape our mind. So first, the world where a child living shape their mind, and then this mind will perceive the world.
I see.
So how the world shaping the mind of children, it's what they're consuming, what
input
yes,
having.
the input, right. And the difference between children even in the same family, yeah, it's also depends emotional shade with which that information is giving.
Yeah.
Meaning, for example, they can read the same book, okay? But for one child reading by themselves, for another it's grandmother who is reading.
I see.
And grandmother, even through her tone of voice, will project her perception of those people who is in the story or the morals which is in the story.
Whether she agrees, doesn't agree, support, and
Yes. So it's all those nuances, but when it's over the years, every day, the difference will be accumulative.
Yeah. Like, to such a small detail, like, which people usually don't pay attention to, like, as mentioned, like the tone of voice of a certain personnel plays a role in how our brain develops, which plays a role in how we perceive the world later on.
Absolutely, yes. Because child is not born with their own prejudices, views, interpretation, and so on.
Yeah.
Children absorbing it from people who surround them, but not all people.
Yeah.
Only from people with whom they have emotional connection and who is influential for them. Yeah. So emotional connection, that's the only and the strongest tool how to influence the child.
Yeah.
It's even apply to education, for example. If there is emotional connection with a teacher, positive emotional connection, the child will be engaged much more easier and more effective, and will absorb information much better than from a teacher with whom there is no attunement. Yeah. Or, for example, if have good connection with the boss, there is much more chances that I will be more engaged
Productive.
into work, right, than with whom I'm not attuned emotionally.
Yeah.
So emotional connection is essential, and it will determine how the same book will be perceived. You give the same book, it will be read by a grandmother with whom I'm connected or by stranger,
Yeah.
and my perception could be absolutely different.
So, like, we usually tend to, this is why, for example, we tend to listen to the opinions of friends and family because we have emotional connection with them.
Right.
And we usually don't pay as much attention to strangers, for example, because we don't have any, let's say, emotional attachment with them. How do we build emotional attachment?
How we build emotional attachment? There should be willingness of both parties. It never can be forced. Because what we see, for example, in adulthood, when one party want to date another and they trying to love bombing and force into it. So truly emotional connection, first, it's unconditional. There's no agenda in it. I just accept you so much. I love you so much. I want your joy and happiness so much that I will give what I have and I will accept you as you are. Okay? So first, it's unconditional. There's drive from both parties and there is no agenda.
I see.
And it should be regular. Okay?
Regular as in what sense?
Regular meaning you cannot build emotional connection by one phone call in a year.
So you have to be consistent in a sense.
Right. There's consistency in it. Right. Yes.
Do you think that having a personal relationship, let's say, or being in a relationship with someone is essential for us to grow better or to feel fulfilled? Or can we live without a personal relationship, for example, as in a love relationship? Do you think we can grow to be good without it, or is it better to have one?
Okay. I think both scenarios is possible. Essentially, what we need for growth, first we need our inner desire and bravery for it and curiosity and honesty. I'm yet to meet happy couple. I'm yet to meet. And most of the times, people stepping into relationship because of conditions which society imposing, age, children, economical convenience, and so on. And such external settings, they are diminishing any possibility for growth. When people are forced or forcing themselves to be somewhere where they are not authentically.
I see.
And even not by force of situations, but again, a lot of people starting relationship without knowing who they are. If I don't know who I am and what is my vision about life, what I want from life, I'm not equipped to choose a person who will support my involvement. Yeah. So first, I believe it's essential to grow when you are alone.
I see.
So only when you grow when you're alone, you will know what you want. You will know who you are. You will know what you want from life. And then you can recognize the person who will support evolvement of yours. But what most of people do, they grab someone and then they will try to make something out of it.
the opposite way, in a sense.
Right. Without knowing who they are, what they want from life, just because it's convenient. It's convenient to have a family, because very often another thing is people starting to have family to avoid dealing with themselves.
Yes.
You're becoming so busy with kids, with bills, with household, that I don't have time to grow. I don't have time to do reflection. I don't have time to meditate. Like
Yes.
it's like avoidance. Like people jumping into relationship. Even I have clients like 13, 14 years old, and they're telling me like their peers, they changing boyfriends, girlfriends every week,
Yeah.
like, okay, first they want to fit into tribe, but secondly, it's also like I'm so afraid to be alone on my weekend at home
Yeah.
that they will hang with strangers. And those strangers even not necessarily helping me to grow further.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just to be busy, just to be entertained and distracted from being with myself. And if it's starting from those age, from 12, 13, 14, that's how a lot of people keep rolling through their life, jumping from relationship to relationship without any break, without any time to heal, to reflect, to recognize what's really happening. And that's why there could be 3 marriages, and then every marriage, husband or wife would say have alcohol addiction, or in every marriage is abusive marriage. Or there's even cases when, for example, woman will be married 3 times and all 3 husbands will commit suicide. This is patterns, and why those patterns happen? People never stop. People never sit with themselves to recognize, what am I doing? Who am I? Why am I making those choices? People just crawling because it's easy.
Conveniency.
Fatal convenience.
Why do we always look for conveniency? Like, is it something in our brains, like to always be comfortable? Like, why do we always just look for comfort? Why is it hard to follow the tough path?
Why is it hard to do hard things?
Yeah, exactly. In a sense. In a sense. I know it's a weird question, but like, sometimes I feel like our brains are lazy. Like, they always just look for conveniency. Like, for example, we know that eating good food, training, etc., sleeping well are good for our health, though we don't do them. And we go follow, for example, cigarettes, although we can read on the label that this is going to kill you. But we just ignore it. Do you think that people are self-destructive in a sense?
You mean intentionally destroying themselves?
Yeah.
I believe so. And I believe so because people do this because they don't recognize their value. And that comes from the childhood, when child is valued for grades, or I will love you only if you quite behaving well and giving good grades. And if you are upset or crying, you're not lovable. So we are programmed since childhood that we're not good enough.
Yeah.
And if I'm not good enough, if I'm not worthy, what's the point to do hard things or good things for myself? I'm not worthy of healing. People know that, yes, smoking is bad. But if I'm already bad, then that's okay.
It doesn't matter anymore.
It doesn't matter. If I'm so unworthy and so ugly and I have so much guilt and shame, it doesn't matter how I look. It doesn't matter how many burgers I will eat. It doesn't matter that I will stay drunk for several days. I'm a bad person, so it's okay. It's fitting into self-concept. It's fitting into how I'm viewing myself.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm reinforcing that knowing your worth, knowing who you truly are, that's essential. Because if you don't know your worth, you will never start to do good choices for yourself. Everybody knows candies are not good. But you go to any school, all children in their lunch boxes have chips, have candies, has cookies, has processed juices. And why it's coming? Because parents, first it's very convenient, but it's fatal convenience. Yeah, they think that they're doing something good, but though they know at the same time that it's very, very bad for children. Yeah. But they want to feel so good about themselves. The parents want to feel so good about themselves that I'm pleasing my child.
That they sometimes harm them unintentionally, let's say.
Yes. But what is happening? Why parents unintentionally harming children? The parents also want to be lovable. Parents also want to please children.
Yes.
But if we don't know healthy ways of building bonds with children, we will want to bite through cookie and through chips. Because they're afraid that if they will put broccoli and cucumbers, they will not be lovable parents. Yeah.
Oh, like, it's... I think that everything starts with self-discovery.
Yes.
Like, I think that the theme of what we were talking about today, like, self-discovery is like essential to grow a better society, grow good, grow better in relationships, family, ourselves, like decrease the rates of depression, anxiety, and in a sense, elevate happiness. In other words, why do you think that people usually always are trying to seek happiness? In a sense, for example, let me put it this way. Are you happy?
Yes.
Why?
I know my mission. I know my life purpose. And I'm living my life consciously. And my choice is aligned with it.
Yes.
And even if I go against the mainstream flow, I feel fulfilled because it's aligned with my essence.
Exactly. So self-discovery, because you self-discovered yourself. So I think like this is how it starts, like fulfillment, feeling more pleasure in life, being more connected with what makes life beautiful. It starts with self-discovery.
Great.
Anastasia, thank you so much. This was a wonderful conversation. Is there anything that you would like to add before we finish up? I think we spoke about a lot of beautiful things, but is there anything that you want to share before we finish?
What I would like to share is maybe for those who are listening us to become unconditionally from this moment. Just decide that I'm worthy. I'm enough. Because God doesn't create anything wrong. What is created by God is perfect, is completed. It doesn't require any face modification, hair modification, another car, another phone. You complete it. You are enough. And yes, we all do wrong choices, painful choices. We all have grief and anger. But don't let it to define who you are. Be curious enough and brave enough to discover why God created you and put on this earth. What beautiful can you create? what evolvement can you get out of pain you have, and to become friends with yourself, to give yourself love, which you always maybe was looking for outside, and multiply love and light and compassion and kindness.
Beautiful. So it starts with self-love in a sense.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Anastasia. This has been wonderful. I want to thank you again for coming in. I really do much appreciate your time, and I wish you nothing but happiness for you and your family, and all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anastasia.